Well, 5:05, a 10th person has been arrested in connection with the murder of drummer Lee Rigby in South London on Wednesday. The 50-year-old man has been detained on suspicion of conspiracy to murder. There's growing pressure on Nick Clegg to back new laws allowing police to monitor internet activity. The Communications Data Bill was dropped from the Queen's speech earlier this month after opposition from the Liberal Democrats, who called it the Snoopers' Charter. The Home Secretary, Theresa May, says powers should be reviewed to tackle extremism.
Access to communications data is essential for the law enforcement agencies and the intelligence agencies. There is a reducing capability in relation to access to communications data. I think this is a very important thing, that we need to ensure that we're giving our law enforcement agencies and intelligence agencies access to the tools that they need to fight crime, paedophiles and terrorists. Annie Matron is an author and former intelligence officer for MI5. I asked her what the security services can do to combat extremism under current laws.
Well, they already have a very wide range of laws that they can use to watch people. These were set in statute in 1985 and were revised in 2000 with the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act. And from 1985, they have been allowed to ask for information about your communications data, which means that they can see who you're calling, who calls you, who you're emailing, who emails you, where you are, how long the communication lasts, that sort of thing. What they cannot see is inside the message at this point under communications data. If they want to do that under existing laws, what they have to do is apply for something called a Home Office warrant, which is then signed off by the Home Secretary in the UK. And once they get that permission, then they can actually intercept your communications and listen to your talks and read your emails. So once they have you on their radar, it's very easy for them to apply for all this sort of legislative coverage and ensure that they can intercept all your communications. So actually what they're trying to push now wouldn't really broaden their ability to investigate terrorist suspects. What it does broaden is their investigate to snoop on the whole population.
And this, do you see as a political knee-jerk reaction rather than something that's going to be more effective against extremists?
Well, I don't think it will be any more effective. It certainly would not have stopped the Woolwich attack last week because these people were already on the radar of MI5, it's been reported. In fact, one of them was approached to work as an agent for MI5 about 6 months ago. So if they were of interest to MI5, they will already have deployed all these sort of interceptions against them to look at all their media communications. So I don't think it's going to improve their capability. What we are looking at is not a government knee-jerk reaction. In fact, the UK government has specifically said they won't put any more laws in place immediately. They want to see what actually happened. What we are seeing is political opportunism from a sort of hard rump of securocrats, including Lord West, Lord John Reid, Jack Straw, Lord Carlisle, who are all arguing the position of the intelligence agencies, which is they want more powers. And it's just cynical political opportunism, when everyone's very shocked about a terrible crime.
Well, but they would argue that, and I think John Reid gave some examples of this, had those powers been in place, then something may have been done. And they would say that they're justified given the nature of the threat that there now is out there.
Well, that's absolute rubbish. They already have all the laws in place to have investigated these people effectively. As I said, these two suspects have been on the radar of MI5 apparently for 8 years. One of them was approached to work as an agent for MI5 only 6 months ago. So MI5 was certainly aware that they were people of interest. And once someone is a person of interest, then they can be fully and aggressively investigated, including having their communications intercepted. So the laws are in place already to have done it. There may well have been a case that MI5 assessed these people not to be an imminent threat, so they didn't put the resources into monitoring them, or they may have just slipped between the intelligence cracks. We don't know, and that's what the inquiry will try and establish. But MI5 does not need additional powers to have stopped such attacks as Woolwich last week.
Do you think it's using its powers, such as you've outlined, against the threat from dissident Republicans in Northern Ireland at the moment?
I'm sure. I mean, these powers have been in place since 1985, as I mentioned, so they will have been used against anyone who's perceived to be a person of interest or a suspect since then. So, yes, it's been deployed against a whole range of people, not just terrorist suspects from the Irish conflict or from Islamic extremism. So, many, many people have fallen under these laws. And to date, I think it's estimated about 500,000 telephone intercepts are in place across the UK per year. So, a lot of us being watched.
And what do you think is going on inside MI5 right now, since it's emerged that these two were known to the security services and yet were still able to carry out the horror of which?
Well, I think there'll be two things. First of all, there'll be this sort of scramble to ensure that no blame can be attached to them, to make sure that they didn't drop the ball somewhere along the line. And secondly, they will be investigating all the connections that they can establish between the two suspects and their networks. So they'll be trying to see who they were working with, potentially.
Annie Matchon, it's 11 minutes past 5.